Hi everybody, my name is Larsen. This Mike Moreno solo is on Out of Nowhere. It's from a YouTube video where he's playing in a duo with Julian Larsen. And originally I was just checking it out because I thought the lines were great and also because I really like this song. But then it occurred to me while I was preparing this video that there's actually also another aspect of what he plays in this solo that's a lot more interesting, because he's also really using some very nice devices to play across the bar line and that way really keep things moving beyond just playing some really great lines with some arpeggios and some interesting scale choices. If you want to learn more about jazz guitar, improve the way to use solo, check out some interesting arpeggios or chord voicings, then subscribe to my channel. If you want to make sure not to miss anything, then click the little bell notification icon next to the subscribe button. This first example is already a great example of how Mike Moreno is phrasing across the bar line. So what we have here is that we're coming in at the end of the first half of the form. So Out of Nowhere is usually in the key of G major. That's also the key that they're playing in here. The form is 2 times 16 bars and we're coming in on the A minor 6, moving to E flat 7, which is so just before the last line of the first half. And Mike Moreno is actually pulling the E flat 7 and anticipating it. So he's pulling it into the A minor. He does this by playing a pickup that is clearly E flat 7 and clearly not A minor, because it's a D flat major 7 shell voicing arpeggio. And then immediately this is pointing towards the 5th of E flat 7 that he's landing on here. So he's using shell voicing arpeggios quite a bit in this solo. There's another example later in this video where he's also using that in a great way to create some lines with an alto dominant. And from here he moves on to the 5th of the E flat 7, down to the 3rd, and then we get a line that's sort of related to an F minor 7 arpeggio here, and a little bit more of that, and then moving on to a D flat major 7 arpeggio with a leading note up to the 7th. It's kind of ghosted, but he's just resolving it up to the 13 here to get this sound, and then up to the high E flat, and then down to the B to resolve to the A minor 7. And then the A minor 7, so this is a 2-5 that's taking us back to the second half, and he's first playing an E minor 7 arpeggio on the A minor, and then he's really kind of voice leading this onto the D7 altered by playing an E flat minor triad like this. So of course D7 altered is the same as E flat minor melodic, so that's what he's using here. And then we get another example of how he's taking a phrase and moving it ahead of the bar line. So he plays the next phrase, which is, and this is starting on the 4, and he's actually already resolved the D7 to G, so this phrase is really just thinking about the G major and not about the D7. This second example is a great example of how you can take some really simple devices and then create another type of melody and another type of texture than the bob lines that are moving from chord to chord. So what Mike Moreno is doing here is really that he's just taking a simple diatonic triad exercises in the A flat major scale and then putting that on top of the B flat minor E flat 7 in the second half of the form. So he starts with a B flat minor triad, and he's using legato to create sort of a trill effect. So playing the B flat minor triad, moving it down to an A flat major, and then the next part you could think of this as being a G diminished triad. For some reason I really think that it's more of an E flat major sound in the context. So, and then the same idea, just moving along down the scale to F minor, and then down to E flat, and then just 2 notes with the B flat and the F to resolve to the 7th of the G major. The reason that I can keep on publishing videos every week is that I have a community of people over on Patreon that are supporting the channel. I'm very grateful for their support, and it's because of them that I can keep making all these very specific jazz guitar and music theory videos. If you want to help me keep making videos, then check out my Patreon page, and if you join us over on Patreon, then I can also give you something in return for your support. final example is a lot longer than the previous examples, but it also really demonstrates a few nice things about Mike Moreno's playing in this solo, because we can see a few examples of how he's using what I would consider more modern arpeggio structures, some really nice examples of playing across the bar line, and also examples of how he's using both harmonic minor and melodic minor on a dominant chord. The first part of the phrase is again an example of using a pickup to create a across the bar line phrase. So he's playing on the G major 7, but the phrase he's playing is clearly related to the next chord, which is a B minor 7, and he's using this quintal arpeggio, so a stack of fifth intervals, moving up through a phrase that's pretty standard B minor, and then on the E7 flat 9 that follows, we get an example of using harmonic minor on an E7, so which is of course a harmonic minor with a leading note. So it's a great example of how modern players are not only using melodic minor and altered scales and diminished scales and dominants, so that the basic harmonic minor sound really also has its place and also really belongs in this place on the song, I think. The next part of the example almost sounds like a conversation between two voices. So we have a low part and a high part. First we get the low part, which is just the C, and then a response from the high, and then low again, and then a different, like a wider interval in the high part, then the low part, and the high, and then mixing the two together to create a conclusion to the conversation. And then moving on into the E flat 7, again starting with a pickup, so with the B flat. And then we get this quite intervallic but really beautiful line, which is kind of coming out of a B flat minor major. So here we have sort of really a strong Lydian dominant sound. And then continuing this by first encircling the D flat and then playing the D flat augmented triad and then going to the D on the A minor chord. The final 2/5 is again using altered dominance and shell voicing arpeggios. So he's of course coming out on the D here on the A minor, and then moves on to using a C major 7 shell voicing arpeggio on the A minor, and moving that up a tritone to get a G flat major 7 shell voicing. And this doesn't really belong to the A minor, he's anticipating the D7 altered, just starting on beat 4. And then from here he moves into an E flat minor first inversion triad, and then resolving that to a G major triad. So he's already resolving back to G major in the middle of the D7 altered bar. And then this is the first part of the phrase that continues on the G major 7. So in that way, again, starting the phrase early and playing across the bar line. If you want to check out another great guitar player from Mike Moreno's generation, then check out this video where I'm analyzing some phrases and some really interesting arpeggio choices in a Jonathan Kreisberg solo. If this is the first time you see one of my videos and you want to learn more about jazz guitar, then subscribe to my channel. If you want to help me keep making videos, then check out my Patreon page. That's about it for this time. Thank you for watching, and until next time.